people understand what Emily is saying here. Like, Emily is saying that she believes that there was a divine orchestration of the spirit of ayahuasca on her body to shift her moon time so that she couldn't sit, you know? And like, I totally believe this too. But like, I can understand that this would be like quite esoteric for some people, you know?
Right. I forget that that's even, far out because it's just the world that I live in. Like she's constantly, every time ceremony comes around, my body and ayahuasca are doing a little dance. Because there's still healing and work to be done there for me. And so I really feel like she put me through the fire in that so that I could alchemize it, right? So that I could really hold that wisdom and share that wisdom with the world. And I wouldn't have received that.
And then I think that leads perfectly into sort of like the next direction I wanted to go in, which is like I have seen you embody this wisdom that I didn't even know existed until basically meeting you. And now, even as a man, right, it's changed the way I'm in relation to you, is also understanding this cycle. So, what is the mission that you're on with the Temple of Her and She is Nourished?
It's my job to teach you. Like it's my job to embody that wisdom so deeply that it filters into everything that I do. The mission. And I mean, you said that you didn't even know about this wisdom until you met me, but I didn't even know about this wisdom until ayahuasca showed me, right?
Oh,
So like this was totally new to me
mhm.
up until 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And
This ain't in the textbook.
it just feels like every turn I make, it's like the wisdom just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And the universe is constantly testing me with like how deep can it go? And I'm not deciding where it ends. But the mission now is just to share it with as many women as possible, especially with the young women, because this is wisdom that I found when I was 23 years old. But how much different my perspectives on life and my perspectives on my body and my perspectives on my femininity would have been if I had found it sooner. And no regrets, it's all divinely orchestrated and my soul chose to find it out when I did and it was perfect. But if I can, help that younger version of me, or help young women in the same place to reconnect with that wisdom of their body, to find that just rhythm with life, right? And attune to just the rhythms of nature, right? Instead of working against nature, it always feels like we're up against something. Whereas when you find that Godspeed, when you find that rhythm, when you find that attunement with your body and your femininity, like you become unstoppable. Not in the way that, like, unstoppable of, like, you can do anything that men can do, and you can be a mother, and you can, work the corporate job, and you can be the wife and the home, but you can become unstoppable within, like, the capacity that you're able to open to your femininity, right? Like, we are brought into these bodies, these female bodies, to be able to host that feminine expression. And I feel like so much of our world and our culture is suppressing that. And the deeper and deeper we come into this, the more we begin attuning and coming into harmony with that mother, with that feminine energy, with that cyclical nature.
Yeah. Can you just give a quick overview of the nature of a woman's cycle? Just
Quick?
even if
How quick?
could
How quick?
keep it under 90 minutes.
Okay. I mean, the best way to really relate with a woman's cycle and her body is really to attune to the seasons. It's something that we can all, even if you didn't grow up in the northern hemisphere and you didn't have the four seasons super pronounced, you know what the feeling of winter, summer, fall, and spring is like. You know that energy. And so, as a woman moves through her cycle every single month, she has these energetics moving through her, right? She is moving in a 28-day hormonal cycle that is ebbing and flowing constantly. And so, as your hormones rise and as they drop, they're going to affect everything about you, how you show up, how you present yourself to the world, your relationship with yourself, your libido, your confidence, your creativity, and it's just the list goes on and on and on. Some women feel like hormones are happening to them, but they actually are making who you are, right? Like every single week when our hormones are shifting, we're showing up as different people. There are four different versions of me that you interact with on a monthly basis, and you know them very well. Do you want me to go through each phase of the cycle?
Yeah. Yeah, just give me a
Mhm.
quick what are the phases and what they
Mhm.
kinda correspond to from your seasonal, perspective.
Perspective. So I like to start with the follicular phase because it feels like spring. It's not actually technically the start of a new cycle, but in the same way that the new year doesn't really feel like the new year, I like to start with the follicular phase. So this is your hormones starting to build. This is your inner spring. So the energy is starting to build inside of you. You know, you can feel spring in the air. You feel creative and you feel full of potential, and your estrogen is slowly rising, your testosterone is slowly rising, your energy is starting to build back. And everything is kind of centered around ovulation. So you're building up to that peak. And then when you ovulate, that's your summer. That's that's kind of like I mean, we call it a menstrual cycle, but menstruating is just a byproduct. The real focal point is your ovulation. It should be called a fertility cycle because the goal is not to menstruate, it's to ovulate. So when you ovulate, that's your peak, that's your summer. And then everything after you ovulate, and that's usually around 2 days. And this is when your libido is the most high. It's when both your estrogen and your testosterone are at their peak. And it's when you have the most energy, when you are the most attractive. The actual structure of your face changes. Your face becomes more symmetrical when you have a lot of testosterone and estrogen pumping through your body. Uh, your scent becomes very attractive. Your appearance becomes more attractive, and you are more attracted to testosterone markers during this time. So that lasts for about 10 to 12 days. And then as you move into the next phase, your inner fall, estrogen starts to dip and progesterone takes over. And so estrogen is kind of like the I'm out on the prowl hormone, right? It makes you want to socialize. It makes you want to interact with the opposite sex. It makes you flirty. It makes you outgoing. And as that starts to go down, you start to draw into yourself, and progesterone starts to rise. And progesterone is more of the protective, creative. I want to stay inside. I want to connect with I want to like connect with myself and kind of hibernate energy. I like to call it the mama bear energy. It's like you're protective, you're slow, you move slower, you hibernate a little bit more. That starts to rise. And then that will rise for 10 to 14 days. So every woman's luteal phase is between 10 to 14 days, which a lot of women don't know. And as soon as your body stops producing progesterone, all of your hormones drop. And that's what causes you to shed your uterine lining. If you didn't fertilize the egg this month, the body has an automatic mechanism that will just shed the uterine lining and try again. And so that drops you into your inner winter. And I really love this luteal phase. It's like long and drawn out, and a lot of women really struggle with it, but it's like the descent into winter. It's like pulling back into yourself, going into your cocoon. I feel like the more gracefully that you fall into your inner winter, the easier it is. In the same way of like how you feel with the seasons, if you prepare for winter, it will be easier.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Nice. Yeah, that's a beautiful overview. And like before, like any lads listening to this, like this is not just a conversation for women, right? Like this is something that is actually affecting your life on a daily basis. Like if you're in relation or you're seeking to be like in a partnership with someone, like you can't escape these natural mechanisms to some degree. So like when
You can chemically castrate yourself to escape them. But
yeah, but see then that leads to other problems and we'll get to that later, but like, just like one of the side effects of birth control is it changes the way that women pick up pheromones and what they're attracted to. So like if you have like a partner who's like not going through this fertility cycle and instead they've completely chemically castrated themselves, then when they get off birth control you're in trouble. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's
Very
like
fair.
I know where you are to a probably 2 or 3 day like accuracy.
You can pinpoint it even like as good as one day. You're like better than any tracker. You're almost better than me, which is really interesting because I think that I am really in tune with how I show up every day. Right? But like you're the one observing me too. Right? So you actually know better than I know because it's changing everything that I do. And I have this idea of who I am, but you're seeing me evolve on a day-to-day basis and you have your perspective is actually more powerful than my own understanding.
For sure, because we live in the present. You know what I mean? And like we are moving day by day, but I can see the rise, I can see the descent. And like I know this is kind of cheeky, but I'm just gonna say it, like, you are now my fiance, I like asked you to marry me. And my best buddy was like, when are you gonna do it? And I was like, when she's about to ovulate. You know what I mean? It's like if you're gonna ask something big of your lady, do it then. It's
Mhm.
like that's when everything is like flowing and the energy is good and the polarity is just like naturally there. So like to be ignorant to this as a man is actually doing a disservice not only to your partner but also to yourself.
And the
You know,
relationship as a whole, right?
for sure. For sure.
Mhm.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe below. It really helps a growing channel like this out. And click up here. It'll take you to a collection of the best this podcast has to offer.